My name is Nancy Roberts, and I'm an economics professor at Arizona State University. Today's video is about public choice, about non-market decision making, about decisions that are made collectively. And what I want to do today is show a problem about how the median voter theorem doesn't necessarily work, and how majority rule doesn't necessarily solve a problem. And the illustration I have here today, let's talk about what the assumptions are that I've made. Number one, I have three voters. So I have Manny, Mo, and Jack. And Manny, Mo, and Jack have to decide on how much funding, how much public funding, taxpayer funding, they want to go towards, let's just say, public education. So we look at the preferences of each of them. They have three choices. The first choice would be, we're not going to spend very much money on public education. Low spending on public education. Another choice would be, let's have some medium spending, a medium amount of spending on public education. And the third choice would be very high spending on public education. We want to put a lot of money towards this. And so what I want to do is explain the choices of Manny, Mo, and Jack. They have preferences, and their preferences are not the same. Individuals have different preferences. So the first thing I want to do is look at Manny, because Manny's the problem in this situation. And if we look at Manny's choices, Manny says, my first choice is I want to spend very little money on public education. So his first choice is very little money on public education. He says the reason is because I'm sending my kids to private school. And that costs me a lot of money to send my kids to private school. So, I don't want to spend a lot of money on public education. I'm going to spend my money on private education. So that's his first choice. His second choice is actually to spend a lot of money on public education, because if this choice doesn't win, low spending on public education, then Manny is not going to be able to send his kid to private school because he won't be able to afford it, because his taxes will be too high. So therefore, he's going to have to send his kid to public school. If that's the case, he wants to make sure there's an awful lot of money spent on public education, because his kid's going to have to go to public school. So this is his second choice. And his third choice is in the middle. So we understand, I'm not asking you to agree or disagree with Manny's choices. I'm just explaining his thought process. This is his first choice. If this doesn't fly, he wants this. Okay, now let's look at Mo. Mo says, public education, yes, we have to spend tons of money on that. And if we don't spend tons, then I want to spend a moderate amount. And this is my last choice. Jack says, look, let's don't have extremes. Let's not have a lot, let's not have a little. Let's just have a moderate amount. If we're not going to spend a moderate amount, let's spend a little, and we'll supplement with work at home. And here's my last choice. This is what Jack says. And so if we, in fact, take votes, and it doesn't matter how you pair these votes up, we're not going to end up with a decision. We end up with just a vicious cycle around and around and around. And so what this leads us to, it leads us to the conclusion that whoever has control of the agenda is going to get the outcome that they want. And so, for example, if we vote between, let's look at some votes here. So if our choice is between low and moderate, Manny will choose low because he prefers that. Mo will choose moderate, and Jack will choose moderate. So, implies moderate wins. Let's now have moderate versus high. Moderate versus high. Moderate versus high. Okay, Manny's going to vote for high. Mo's going to vote for high. Jack's going to vote for moderate, so high wins. Okay, what if vote number 3 is between the only two we haven't measured, and that's high and low? We've compared low to moderate, we've compared moderate to high, we haven't compared high and low. In fact, low wins. So the point is, this is what we call pairwise cycling. This is just going to occur. It doesn't matter in which order you compare these. So what's important is what we call agenda control. In other words, who decides how the vote is taken? You know, if we do low to moderate and then moderate to high and high wins, then we assume, well, look, low's been beaten by moderate. Moderate's been beaten by low, and then if we compare moderate to high, high wins, so high's the winner. But it depends. You've never compared low to high. So if, in fact, the order in which you offer these votes is controlled by whoever's in charge of the agenda, if I'm in charge of the agenda and I want high, then I'm going to schedule the votes this way, saying, look, everything's been compared to everything, and high wins. If I want low to win, I'm going to schedule them this way, these two votes. Here's moderate and high, high won. Here's high and low, low wins. So, in other words, everything's been voted on, low, moderate, and high, and low wins if you do it this way. Everything's been voted on, low, moderate, and high if you do it this way. If you want high to win, this is the way you schedule the agenda. And so this is the problem involved with what we call pairwise cycling, and it happens because of Manny. Manny has what we call multi-peak preferences. I mean, this looks inconsistent. It looks like he doesn't follow the rule of transitivity. If you prefer A to B and B to C, then you have to prefer A to C. So, but these are legitimate choices. This is a legitimate thinking of voters. And so this is what causes this cycling, which then means it's very important who's in control of the agenda. And this is why the political parties are so concerned with having control of the House of Representatives or having control of the Senate, because whoever has control of the House is the one who sets the agenda. Whoever has control of the Senate, they set the agenda. So the things that get voted on and the order in which they get voted depends on who's controlling the agenda. So this leads some insights into how, number one, problems that we get, and number two, how the agenda control is so important in the political non-market decision making. And we have one more issue we're going to talk about with regards to public choice, and that is what we call log rolling or trading votes.